Welcome back to another episode of Meet the Assistant. I'm Chris Koller, Chief Revenue Officer here at ShareBuilders. I'm joined, as always, by our Chief Product Officer, Taylor Snow.
Everybody.
Taylor, it's been a minute since we've done one of these.
We've been kind of busy, buddy.
Yeah, we have. We had done a video on data enrichment before, but it had been in beta. We've been waiting for it to get out until we could actually show you the wonderful features of this. And this is really the catalyst of our sales enablement, revolution inside of the product that we've been working so hard on. We started this process a couple years ago, started with connected mailbox, now data enrichment. We have several other great features that are going to come out to really make the seller's life a lot easier so that when they're doing their day-to-day tasks, we're saving them time, creating efficiencies, all that stuff. Taylor, what I miss?
Um, we're generating insights. So if we shared the roadmap before, we're basically on phase three, and that's what we're going to show you or share with you today. And that's what's available to anybody who wants to sign up. But we're already working on phase four. Maybe we could kind of preview that or tease it towards the end of this video where we're headed.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into it. Try to keep these short, so they're not such a long walkthrough for people to view.
I
Taylor,
think
take
it's
it away. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
think
Go
it's
ahead.
good that we level set and make sure that we're on the same page. When we say data enrichment, this is what we're talking about. First, I'm going to speak from a seller's perspective. So, as a seller, I can go from just driving by in the local market and seeing a brand new butcher. Chris lives in Peoria. We use Peoria data because it's just familiar to him and it's helpful to help test. So we can drive by and see a new butcher, and I can just have that vagueness. Maybe I forget the name of it. I just drove by really quick, and then I can go all the way through. And the assistant's able to help me figure out which butcher. And it can also give me a full profile on the company. I'll fill in some more information, but you can kind of see here in the screenshot what we're kind of leaning into. And then not only can we do that, the assistant will go out and check its sources and find suggested contacts that we think will be good media buyers, good decision makers, people that you would want to contact. And then not only do we tell you who they are and their title, but we give you ways to contact them, like email addresses and phone numbers and a whole bunch else that we'll get into in a couple different slides. I think it's important that we point out that we are just showing screenshots here and slides because as much as we wanted to demo this in real time, and we could, we didn't want to share anybody's private information because phone numbers and email addresses just kind of show up on the screen as you're going through this process.
That felt a little
Yeah,
shady to
yeah.
share with
So
the world.
everything in here is what the experience looks like. So we're not, there's no game here. And you can see a preview or a demo of it if you talk to Chris. Anyways, we can generate, this slide's actually a little old. We're now up to 150 different data points that we can generate for a company. We're getting proper names as they like to talk about themselves publicly, branding materials like logos, their branding colors, taglines. We write up a short description, or we don't, the ShareBuilder system does. But I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit. What you see on the right-hand side, this is the equivalent of the desktop and a mobile experience, really. But it's a whole new experience that we built to add a company. And we use the word company instead of like account because this workflow is the same workflow now to add a lead, an account, and an agency. And based upon the choices that you make, we have conditional views and questions that we ask you to meet your market's requirements when you add an account and a lead and that kind of thing. So this one workflow will take over everything that we do inside of ShareBuilder CRM today on how you add a company. So this will just be right in the way, in a positive way, hopefully, as you go through and just kind of do your normal workflow. There's no like extra steps as you use data enrichment. Um, Actually, it should save you a lot of time. So in step one, you tell us the name of the company. You could also type in like butcher, for example. It's going to show you local results. We're not hiding this. We're leaning into Google Maps as a place to start. That is by no means even close to a tenth of the percent of the data that we deliver, but it is a good way to start as far as like a local company. Um, So you choose from that list. It's based upon where you are as well as where your market's configured. And then you select that, you get a quick preview, you go through the assistant, and that step 2, that screenshot there. The assistant is kind of broken out into a bunch of agents behind the scenes, and a bunch of tooling that we built that goes and reads the website. It looks at the code of the website, it looks at like local listings and newspapers and all kinds of stuff. Not just newspapers, but any kind of news locally about the company to try to find the information that we're looking for, like those 150 data points. So you get a small preview through the workflow. And we show you that logo. There's a phone number there. I don't know if you can see this while we're screen sharing. It's kind of small, but hours of operation, the different locations they might have. That about down there is written by the ShareBuilder Assistant. And then the tagline is basically what they use in their marketing material, the website, whatever it might be. And all that's great. You get a quick preview of the 150 data points. You click continue, and that final panel, I think, is probably the gold that everybody's after, right? And that's
Yep.
where we say the ShareBuilder Assistant's checked its sources, and here are 5 or 10 suggested contacts for this account that you're adding or this lead, whatever it may be. And we show you the titles. You can click in each one and see, like, we found a phone number, an email, and you select the ones that you want to add to CRM. Now, the magic is you click add contacts and you're done. So you've gone from, hypothetically, the vagueness of a new butcher that I drove by all the way through the company's fully enriched profiles there. It's got locations, good contact information, and a handful of contacts with phone numbers and email addresses and all that. Am I missing anything, Chris?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I like to tell the story when we talk to sales teams about this, that many moons ago when I sold media directly, I remember my typical workflow as I go out and I go on my sales calls during the day. I would notice new businesses or maybe advertisements for new business. So I drove around, I would jot them down on a little yellow pad of paper. And then I would get home at night, have dinner, and after dinner I'd open up my laptop and spend the next few hours trying to figure out, who the heck works at this company, what could I talk to them about? What are they talking about? How do they discuss themselves so I could cold call them the next day? This takes you from the point of just seeing the advertisement driving by the business and gives you all this information in just, a few seconds, which is going to save sellers tons of time. And again, it's all about going from, fill in any number you want to, but if you could achieve 10 cold calls a week and do your own research, this assistant feature should allow you to do, 10 times that as long as you have the time.
For sure. I think it's important that we point out that all this data, whether it be contact or company, we've toned down any kind of hallucination that you might assume you might get from AI, but the quality of the data and the depth of the data that we're able to deliver is really dependent on the person and the company's web presence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like myself and you don't have a big social media presence, the amount of data that it would return on me would be smaller than compared to somebody who's just living life inside of social media and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. So before we get into contact, there's one more thing just for those who are like in the trenches. If you're watching this, some of the company data that we didn't really show in any of these screenshots, any slides, we're getting into like sharing the Google Analytics code, the tag code. We're finding all the social media links and the blog links. Is this website mobile friendly? How's it built? Is it built with Squarespace? It's built with GoDaddy, WYSIWYG, whatever it may be, or WordPress. We're getting further and further into that digital space and trying to bring that into CRM. So there's a lot more, and we can share that information if you're interested.
Yeah, digital teams should love this.
Yeah. So we can go just the opposite of what we did in the last slide, starting with that vague company, or even if I know the name. Now we can do the opposite and say, I want to add a contact and enrich it. So in this first slide, you basically tell the assistant everything you know about this person. So if you only know the name, you would just put in a first and last name, and then we need kind of a general location. And if not, we can use a market location. So if you know they live in like a suburb, just the more information you can share with the assistant, the better the matching ability. But just a name and a general location should get you started. and then the assistant checks its sources like it did in the past step, and it's going to give you a preview of what you would add, and then take you right to that contact. And that's going to include the obvious stuff like a title, but the phone numbers and emails and social media links that you're probably trying to find, and save you some time of going around the internet and trying to find it. But we also find stuff that's pretty obvious that it comes from LinkedIn, but we have some partnerships behind the scenes to be able to get like education, history, work history, what they, what their interests are, that kind of thing. So a lot of information here. Again, if you want to know all the data points that we have, we'd be happy to share that with you. And then we go from all of this information and we go to the next slide, Chris, and we generate something that's, I think, pretty special here at ShareBuilder, and that's contact insights. So we take the information from the company enrichment, the contact enrichment, and we say, okay, let's do a disc assessment on this contact. We tell you how to talk to this person's personality. So this example is Brian. Speak to Brian with a clear, whatever it might be. So if this person is analytical, it'll change how you should talk to them. If they want to build a relationship, it'll explain that. The key traits and the interests over there down on the bottom left, those two things are really highly dependent on social media. So we need to see how they speak, the language that they choose to use, the things that they share, that they click like on, whatever it might be. And that's how we get to things like basketball, cooking, travel, that kind of thing. To try to find alignment of like maybe that first conversation. Maybe you both like the same professional hockey team in town, that kind of thing, to try to find that connection there. So each step kind of builds upon itself. And then we go to the top right here, and these are pain points. We take the information that you'd give us when we first set up data enrichment for your team. We take that. These are things like value proposition and market differentiator, products and services. And we feed that into a model that says, let's take everything we know about Brian's role, Brian's company, in that area, and then the time of year. And we try to come up with 3 pain points that this person might be facing, that how, and then generate how you can help solve those pain points. And some of these examples are really solid. Chris,
Yeah,
we were in market once, if you can bring that story up out of memory.
yeah. No, we were in a market just a few weeks ago, and we were rolling this out to a sales team, and a couple of young men came back to the conference room a little bit late from a meeting. They said, "Hey, sorry, we were out closing a big piece of business," and it was a digital sales rep and an account executive. And they came back in. We asked everybody to go through and put a company in and kind of try this with us, so that we made sure they knew how to use it, see if they had any questions, all that. And they started chatting by the computer, and we're like, "Hey guys, what's going on? Do you guys need some help?" They said, "We hadn't put that client that we just sold in the CRM yet. We put it in there. Not only did it find all the right contact information, 2 of the 3 pain points and the solutions that you gave us are what we just sold to the client." So great validation for us. Love to see that we hit it out of the park with at least that one example. So
I think the third pain point was something they talked about, but maybe a campaign they would look at in the future,
yeah,
which is incredible. And we're aware not every single pain point and solution are going to be like rock solid, and the customer or the prospect's going to like bite into it. But these are good jump points. And then we take all this information, the pain point solutions, and each one of these is very custom to that person. Even if we enrich like a handful of contacts, the pain points, the solutions, all of that might be a little bit different just because of their role there. And
hmm
then we take that custom information, we say, all right, how can the seller prepare for the first connection? And these are some homework assignments of maybe some holes on the internet that the assistant couldn't fill in the information or find enough information. It might suggest that you find a similar campaign that is suggested in the pain points, in like a similar customer that you already have in the market. And then we take that information, we say, okay, now let's get a handful of questions ready that you could maybe kick off the conversation or keep that conversation moving. All of these are very custom. These are not templated. I think somebody asked me that recently. These are generated on the fly that are just for this person. So now we got all this information about the person, the pain points, solutions, some homework assignments maybe, and then some questions to get started with. We take all that and we draft an email. Email's ready. We've trained these models on successful email campaigns, cold emails in the past. And we create this one-off email that with one click, you can just open up an Outlook or Gmail, whatever your default mail client is, and just make a couple changes and click send. And that's
Yeah,
Contact Insights.
really exciting stuff.
One thing we don't have on this slide, which we should talk about, is if you're radio and you're listening, if you're in a radio market, we're generating spec spots. So we're going to be bringing that as a beta product to anybody who has data enrichment. So one extra piece of all the Contact Insights is spec spot. We'll start with scripts, and then we'll get that into audio format over time.
Yeah. And for those of you who are video television clients, we also are finishing up an integration with Waymark. Little shout out to those guys to help make their spec spots even better if you use both of our systems, and you'll be able to do all that right inside the CRM. So,
right,
trying to make life easier for everybody.
Do we have one more slide, Chris, or is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Which is all right. This is longer than we normally go. We were trying to keep it as short as possible, but there's so much exciting information to share here. Um, if you want to find out more, Taylor will embed our emails into this video so that you can reach out to us. Taylor, anything else before we part ways?
Sorry, I'm long-winded on this and it's 40 minutes long, but I'm very passionate about this. I love this project and we've heard really good feedback during the beta. So I'm excited to see this go to the next step and see how other customers use this. So no, I don't think there's anything else, Chris. We did mention we were gonna preview and maybe tease where we're headed next.
Oh, yeah. So next we'll do another Meet the Assistant video. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and you'll hear more about activity enrichment, and then something new that we're very excited about, which is our new skills feature they'll be rolling out here shortly. That is going to, I think, change everybody's life. Everybody we previewed it to is very excited. So
awesome.
Don't hesitate to reach out. Love to show you more about how we can help in your market. And yeah, look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody. See you.
Bye.